quick one, just to introduce myself. I'm Debbie from Not in the Guidebooks. I'm the sales director here. I'm delighted to be hosting today's session, and I have my colleague with me, Michelle, who keeps me on the straight and narrow, gets everything to work technically. And I believe we've actually got some others of Not in the Guidebooks on the call today as well. So welcome, everyone. Let's have a quick look at what we're covering today. You can see from the slide there, we're obviously going to be talking about all things Sri Lanka. But before we jump into the destination itself, I'll start with a quick overview of who Not in the Guidebooks are, what we offer, just for those of you who may not be familiar with us yet. Apologies for those that have done a webinar with us before. It might be a bit repetitive at the beginning, but it's only 5 minutes. We'll then get into Sri Lanka and talk about why customers would want to visit Sri Lanka, what's the draw, some interesting info. And I was lucky enough to visit Sri Lanka myself recently, so I'm going to take you through my journey and just kind of bring it to life and tell you how amazing a Not in the Guidebooks itinerary really is. Then towards the end, I'll be sharing some details of our Ultimate Sri Lanka Fam Trip incentive. So you definitely want to hang around for that. And then we'll wrap things up at the end with a question and answer session. So you can pop questions in the chat as you go, or you can just unmute yourselves at the end to ask any questions. So let's jump straight in and set the scene by taking a look at our short brand video first. So today's travellers are seeking more than just a typical fly and flop holiday. They're craving authentic, meaningful adventures, the kind of experiences that feel personal, immersive, and of course, totally share worthy on social media. And that's exactly what we do here at Not in the Guidebooks. Our trips offer deep cultural immersion, connecting travellers with the essence of a destination through unique hands-on experiences. And we do that by partnering directly with local hosts, the people who live and breathe these places, the people who know it best. They craft unforgettable itineraries that showcase the hidden gems most tourists miss. And your customers won't just see a destination, they truly will live it. Each of our itineraries is packed with authentic local experiences and includes hand-picked premium accommodation. And that accommodation is chosen for its distinctive character and charm. What we don't want to do is put people in standard hotels where they could be anywhere in the world. We want places that really reflect that local culture and add real value to the journey. And unlike traditional group tours, our private itineraries strike the right balance between exploration and relaxation, giving your customers the freedom to discover at their own pace while still getting those expertly curated experiences. And I should mention, because we're very proud of it, we are B Corp certified. That means that every itinerary is designed to be responsible and sustainable and support the communities that your customers are visiting so that you can sell with confidence, knowing the experience is making a positive impact. So let's talk about why travel agents choose to work with us and keep coming back. We understand that as agents, you're often under pressure to deliver unique holidays for your customers, and we specialise in helping you build authentic, often complex itineraries that customers simply can't replicate by searching online. I know how frustrating it can be when you spend an awful lot of time putting together an itinerary or a trip for a customer. Please put yourself on mute if you've just come in. Thank you. I know it's really frustrating if you get customers that come in, you do a lot of work for them, and then they go away and try and replicate it themselves just to save £100. They're going to find that very difficult. Any itinerary that we put together for you, they are going to find it incredibly difficult to replicate themselves. So how do we do it? Well, we put together, firstly, simple to shop private itineraries that make building custom trips straightforward and efficient. So for each destination that we've got on the website, we'll have a series perhaps of 4 or 5 different itineraries, and they're a great starting point. They're full of the authentic immersive experiences that I've just talked about, giving customers hands-on cultural connections, not just standard sightseeing. And then obviously we've got the accommodation, the premium experiential accommodation. So we believe that's part of the adventure as well. But those itineraries are completely flexible and customizable because they're private. They are not group tours, which means you can use those itineraries on our website as the starting point as for an inquiry with your customers. Maybe download the PDF from our website, send it to your customer. But then if they want to make changes to that itinerary, they absolutely can. We can tweak, we can fully tailor make, do whatever you need to create the perfect trip for your customers. And I mentioned there about downloadable PDFs for every one of our products on our website. As long as you're logged in as an agent, you'll be able to download a PDF from the website, which you can then send to your customers, making it really simple and easy to get an inquiry underway. We've also got some pretty inspiring marketing content, videos. You'll see some videos as we go through this presentation. You can have access to those videos to use on your own socials to promote our products too. And what we try and do with our videos is try and keep the content quite raw and real. So a lot of the stuff is from where our team have gone out or where customers have sent us and given us permission to use the videos, so that it's real content rather than really highly polished professional video, which doesn't necessarily inspire customers. Ultimately, our goal is to make your job easier while delivering unforgettable experiences that keep your clients coming back again and again. So we offer 3 collections within our portfolio. We've got our Arctic breaks, which many of you know us for, our mini breaks to Lapland, very different to traditional Lapland suppliers because everything we do is about staying in experiential accommodation and having full length activities. So think glass roof cabins. Then we've got our immersive exploring range, which is where Sri Lanka fits in really nicely. That's a collection of fully customizable private itineraries around the world, including places like Morocco, Costa Rica, Peru, Vietnam, Thailand, to name but a few. And then our third collection is our special interest holidays, which are for customers who are perhaps looking to learn a new skill while they're away or do something that they already love doing as a hobby. Think things like painting, cooking, crafting, wellness retreats, or horse riding, anything like that is our special interest. So we've done that quick overview of Not in the Guidebooks, but there's an awful lot to get through when it comes to Sri Lanka. So let's get started. If you are able, scan the QR code that's on the screen, because this is just a little bit of interaction here, just to check that you're all still awake and I haven't sent you to sleep in the first 5 minutes. So scan the QR code, and just with the QR code, once you've scanned it, tell us what springs to mind when you think about Sri Lanka. You know, any words. I mean, you might come up with, you know, wildlife. I don't want to give anything away, but yeah, scan the QR code and just tell me what springs to mind when you think about Sri Lanka, because it will be interesting to understand people's different takes of what they think of when they think of Sri Lanka. Yeah, elephants, tea, culture, temples, amazing food, absolutely. Yeah, lots of people say in the train, it obviously is very, very well known for its train rides. This is great. Amazing curry. Yeah, curry for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Wildlife. Okay, great. Got some really good ones in there. So lots of ideas, and they're all right. Absolutely. Sri Lanka is one of those rare destinations that truly has it all: culture, nature, wildlife, beaches, amazing people. And it's all packed into one compact, easy to travel island. You can go from exploring ancient temples and lush tea hills to watching elephants in the wild or relaxing on a beach, all within just a few hours drive. And it's a country that feels really safe, welcoming, and full of warmth. The hospitality is genuine, the food's amazing, and the landscapes are really diverse. So for travellers who want more than just a beach holiday, maybe they crave adventure, authenticity, connection, Sri Lanka delivers on all of that and more. And as travel agent, it's a dream to sell for you because it's a year-round destination, and it offers great value, incredibly flexible, and appeals to so many types of different customer. So it's perfect for adventure seekers who love hiking, wildlife, and coastlines. For families, there's so much variety, from tuk-tuk rides to cooking classes, exciting safaris, and amazing beaches. they're well catered for. Culture and nature lovers can mix temples and tea trails. And it's ideal for couples, multi-generational groups who really want that perfect balance of activity and relaxation. And when I take you through my trip in a little bit,
Debbie, you muted yourself.
You're on mute, Debbie.
Can everybody hear me now?
Yeah, you're back.
Yes.
I'm not sure what happened there. I pressed no button. Okay. So anyway, let's talk about some quick facts and travel essentials about Sri Lanka. So geographically, Sri Lanka is a teardrop-shaped island sitting just south of India in the Indian Ocean. It's about a 10 to 11-hour flight from the UK. It's placed between the Arabian Sea and the Bay of Bengal, and it's obviously that's why it's got such beautiful beaches and amazing marine life. It shares maritime borders with India and the Maldives, which makes it a really easy destination to combine. Lots of travellers love doing a Sri Lanka and Maldives twin centre. Personally, although I love the Maldives, if you're visiting Sri Lanka for the first time, I absolutely believe that you need a minimum of 2 weeks to really experience everything it has to offer. We get asked an awful lot to do a 7-night or an 8-night itinerary to Sri Lanka so people can then go off to the Maldives. We can absolutely do that for you, but it's going to be a busy 8 or 9 days there. If they have got longer, I would absolutely recommend it. English is widely spoken across Sri Lanka. And they've got the new electronic travel authorization, the visa. I think it's about $50 per person now, but it's really easy, quick and easy to apply online. So very easy to get in and out of Sri Lanka. What surprises many people about is how compact Sri Lanka is. The island is about the size of the Republic of Ireland, so roughly 270 miles long, 140 miles wide, which means you can see an incredible variety of landscapes without long transfers. For example, you can drive from the beaches of Negombo on the west coast up to the Cultural Triangle in around 4 hours. So the Cultural Triangle, if you're looking at this map, is kind of the Kandy and Sigiriya area. So that takes about 4 hours. If you're traveling Kandy to the Tea Hills, which is Nuria Elia on the map, that takes around 3 hours. And even if you're traveling coast to coast, so from the west coast to the east coast, that only takes about 6 or 7 hours by car. So it's a pretty compact island. One of the great things about Sri Lanka is that it's a year-round destination. So from December to March, the west and the south coast plus the hill country have what is known as their dry season. So that's perfect for the classic itineraries. And if they want a beach stay at the end, staying on the west and south coasts. And then from April to September, which is when I went, that's when it's known as the rainy season, but actually there wasn't a huge amount of rain when I was there, and you can still have your beach stay, because if you're going that time of year, you would then go over onto the east coast for your beach stay, and the weather is beautiful. So depending on what your clients want, there's always somewhere on the island that's in season effectively. And because each region has its own personality, from the ancient cities of the Cultural Triangle to the beaches and the tea hills, it's really easy to build a trip that fits perfectly around the time of year when they're traveling. So I'm just going to start with a couple of places. Let's start in the heart of the island, the Cultural Triangle, because this is a real big pull. I guess there's 2 big pulls for Sri Lanka. The 2 biggest, I would say, is the culture and the wildlife. So when people think of Sri Lanka, they're going for the culture and they're going for the wildlife. Situated in the centre of the island, the Cultural Triangle is a great place to start, and it forms roughly between Anuradhapura and Polonnaruwa, I can never say this, Polonnaruwa, and then Dambulla and Sigiriya. So very easy for some people to say, not so much for me. So they're this kind of 3 places that form the Cultural Triangle. You've also got Kandy in there as well. Now, why do people love the Cultural Triangle? Well, I guess it's really the spiritual and historical heart of Sri Lanka. It's where you find the ancient capitals, sacred temples, and some of the country's most recognised landmarks. It's actually home to 5 UNESCO World Heritage Sites, including Sigiriya Rock Fortress. Now, this is an iconic place. You can see on the screen there, Sigiriya. It's amazing. It rises dramatically above the jungle, and it's basically an ancient palace and one of Sri Lanka's most iconic images, as you can see. You've then got another UNESCO World Heritage Site at the Dambulla Cave Temples, filled with stunning murals and Buddha statues, and they date back over 2,000 years. You've got the ruins of, again, excuse my pronunciation, Polonnaruwa and also Anuradhapura, which give a glimpse into the island's rich Buddhist civilizations. But I guess it's more than archaeology. The cultural triangle offers something deeper. It's really a sense of connection. You can cycle through rural villages, you can visit local markets, you can take in cooking classes. Even within the cultural triangle, you've even got Mineria National Park, which is where you can see lots of elephants as well. So it's one of those regions where you can combine culture with the 5 UNESCO World Heritage Sites, but you've also then got wildlife and local life, and you can essentially do that all in the same day. All of those things, and it makes it a perfect place for families, for first-time visitors. I think everybody that comes to Sri Lanka for the first time will absolutely do the cultural triangle. And because it's so central, it connects beautifully to the rest of the island. You can head into the hills, you can head into the tea country, you can go east to the coast, or you can go west to the coast as well, all within a few hours. And speaking of elephants at Mineria National Park, let's talk wildlife, because although Sri Lanka's cultural side is a massive pull, the wildlife is equally incredible. Sri Lanka is honestly one of the most rewarding wildlife destinations in Asia. For such a small island, it's home to over 120 species of mammals, 170 reptiles, and more than 500 species of birds, including several that are found nowhere else on the earth. So they're endemic to Sri Lanka. You'll find leopards, sloth bears, elephants, crocodiles, monkeys, and off the coast you can even spot blue whales and dolphins as well. I actually saw both of those while I was in Sri Lanka. And I guess what makes it special isn't just the diversity of species, but how easy it is to experience them. The national parks are compact, accessible, and offer incredible encounters without the crowds. But I don't know, which parks are you going to visit? Let's have a look at some of those. So there's actually more than 20 national parks across Sri Lanka, each one with its own personality, and some are definitely more commercial and busier than others. And that's really important. Not in the guidebooks. We don't want to offer your customers, we don't want your customers to sit in a queue of 100+ jeeps all chasing the same leopard sighting. We want to take them to parks where they can truly connect with nature, where it feels wild and unspoiled. So that might mean exploring national parks like Wilpattu, which is Sri Lanka's oldest and largest park, where the scenery is honestly spectacular. It was just amazing when we went there. You've also then got Galoya, one of our favourites, a hidden gem where you can take a boat safari and watch elephants swimming across the reservoir, often with no other travellers in sight. You've got Mineria National Park, again, one that I visited, and this is incredible between July and October because they have the elephant gathering there. When there's hundreds of elephants come together by the water, honestly, it is the most unforgettable sight. It's just incredible. And even if you do have guests that want to do the well-known parks like Yala, we will work with our local guides. We work with our local guides who know how to avoid the crowds as best they can there, so that your clients do have, a more intimate and memorable experience. But personally, if you have got clients traveling to Sri Lanka, I would absolutely recommend that they go to the non-busier parks, so probably avoiding places like Yala if they can. But for us, it's not just about ticking off sightings, it's about experience Sri Lanka's nature in a way that feels authentic, respectful and truly special. And I guess that's why we do want to be sending customers to those lesser known or those lesser busier national parks, so that we're not sending everybody to the same place. So there's many more amazing places I could talk about, but rather than keep you all here today for much longer, I thought I'd bring to life by sharing my own trip, the itinerary I travelled with my family in July. You can see us there all on screen. This is where we were actually in the back of a Jeep at Mineria National Park, and we're just in, so many elephants that day. It was just incredible. One of the most unforgettable moments of the whole adventure, but there were plenty more. So we went on a 15-day adventure. And my brief to our host before we went was to see as much of the island as possible, to include a little bit of culture, a lot of wildlife, and lots of amazing scenery, all broken up with a bit of relaxation and definitely a ride on the famous train network. And it was important to have that relaxation in there because this was our annual 2-week holiday, so we wanted to make sure we had some downtime as well. So this is the trip that our host came up with. As you can see from the map here, geographically, I covered north, south, east, and west. Did I see it all? Of course not, but it was a really fantastic itinerary for our first visit. We obviously flew into Colombo, and that's where we met the person who really made our trip what it was, and that was our driver and guide, Mano. So before I get into the trip, let me talk a little bit about our driver. He met us at the airport with the biggest smile and a bag full of Sri Lankan gifts, which immediately set the tone for the whole journey. For my son, he'd bought a Sri Lankan cricket shirt. For my daughter, some really lovely local bath and body products. It was just really thoughtful. It was a really thoughtful welcome. And within 20 minutes of seeing him, he had already helped us change our money, get a local SIM card, so the kids had all the data they needed for the trip, obviously. Everything was sorted before we'd even left the airport car park. And that first hour really, that first hour summed Mano up perfectly. He was thoughtful, he was organised, completely focused on making sure we had the best possible start to our adventure. And as we travelled, we quickly realised how lucky we were to have Mano with us. He was an absolute wealth of knowledge. He's been guiding for over 20 years. Believe it or not, before he trained as a guide, he was actually a narcotics officer. And I couldn't work out during the trip why he always had his arm outstretched. I was kind of thinking, shouldn't you have two hands on the wheel? And when I questioned him about it, he said, oh, that's because I've still got a bullet lodged in my arm from being a narcotics officer. So quite a funny story. But anyway, he was a wealth of knowledge. He's been guiding for over 20 years, and he was a trained naturalist, which meant he spotted wildlife long before we ever did. He'd quietly point something out and suddenly we'd see it, maybe a kingfisher, a monitor lizard, or in our case, a leopard completely hidden from view until he noticed it. Beyond that, he was just incredibly kind and calm in every situation. We had a situation on holiday where my son was poorly, he had tonsillitis, and we had to see a doctor to get some antibiotics. Mano, now something like that could have taken us hours to sort out. Mano got us to a hospital, got us to see a doctor, and within half an hour, we were back out again, prescription in hand, for the grand total price of £1.21. So yeah, a little bit different to here. So Mano, from start to finish, he was always available, always making sure everything went smoothly, but he was never intrusive. He just had that perfect balance of professionalism and warmth. And by the end of the trip, he wasn't just our driver, he'd become a friend for life. We speak to him regularly now, even still once we're back. And he was the perfect example of genuine hospitality that makes Sri Lanka so special. And these are the kind of guides that we have on all of our Not in the Guidebooks trips. That guide will be with your customers from the airport at pickup, from the airport at drop off. So now I've bigged Mano up there. Let's talk about my trip a little bit more. Arriving in Colombo, we actually flew with Qatar via Doha, which was it split the journey quite well. Sri Lankan Airlines obviously fly direct if you do want a direct flight. Most people, when they arrive into Colombo, will have a night to get over the flight. We spent a relaxing afternoon and evening in the coastal resort of Negombo, which is about 25 minutes from the coast. The next day, we headed off to Wilpatu National Park, which was about a 3-hour journey to the north. And that was where we had our first wildlife adventure. And it was an amazing adventure. We enjoyed 2 incredible safaris, one in the afternoon and another early the next morning, just as the park was waking up. And it was great to do it at different times because obviously you got to see different animals, different birds, depending on what time it was. Honestly, these safaris were magical. Mano was absolutely amazing at spotting the wildlife, often before we realised we were even looking at it. He'd quietly point out movement in the distance, you know, whether it was a crocodile basking by the lake, a family of elephants, monkeys, and more bird life than we could ever count. That was his speciality. So honestly, the birds that he spotted was just amazing. And Wilpatu really set the tone for the trip. It was wild, it was peaceful, and it was completely captivating. It's such a beautiful park. It's got lakes, it's got forests, and it really had that feeling of untouched wilderness. And it was the perfect introduction to start, you know, our Sri Lanka adventure. And as I mentioned earlier, with the national parks, you know, we were traveling around in a Jeep in Wilpatu. And honestly, I could count on one hand the amount of other Jeeps that we came across. So you really did feel like you were in a wilderness all on your own. It was great. So from Wilpatu, we then travelled across to the east coast and we had 3 nights of relaxation in the coastal resort of Trincomalee, known for its golden sands and clear waters of the Indian Ocean. We spent our days snorkeling in the warm shallows. We were lucky enough to swim alongside beautiful sea turtles, which was a real dream come true for me. So this was great. I really loved Trincomalee. And because obviously the time of year that we were traveling, we absolutely, to get the best weather and to be able to enjoy the sea, we needed to be on the east coast. Whereas if you're traveling at another time of year, kind of December through to April, you're going to be wanting to go on the west coast for your beach stay. So from the coast, we then headed back inland towards the Cultural Triangle. And along the way, we enjoyed one of my favourite days of the whole trip. We started with a village cycling tour and we were pedaling through rice paddies, rural lanes, stopping to meet locals, learn about everyday life in the countryside. We joined a local cooking class with a local family. And it was a real hands-on fun experience and obviously really delicious food as well. So that was a great start, you know, to the Cultural Triangle for us. That evening we did a sunset kayak experience across a huge lake. And that's where we actually got our first glimpse of the majestic Sigiriya rock fortress in the distance, knowing that we'd be climbing it the following morning. So the next morning we were up before dawn. So I think that was a 4 o'clock start for our sunrise climb of Sigiriya. That was quite an experience climbing such a huge structure in the dark, but it was still safe. If you've got customers that perhaps are less able, this may not be the experience for them. But honestly, watching the sun come up from the top was just unforgettable. It was amazing. And then later that same day, we headed to Mineria National Park. And being July, it was the perfect time to witness the annual elephant gathering that I was talking about earlier. So we saw over 100 elephants, families of elephants, babies, big males, all together by the lake. It was absolutely incredible. It was kind of one of those true pinch me travel moments. And we got some amazing footage, videos, pictures, just incredible to see that amount of elephants in one place. So then from the excitement of Sigiriya and the wildlife of Mineria, it was time to slow the pace down a little because that was kind of, we had 3 days in that area and they were all really busy days. So we kind of needed to just have a bit of relaxation before we knew we were heading on to Kandy. So we headed into the hills, and one of the places that really captures the quieter, more authentic side of Sri Lanka is a place called Gamadua. It's a small mountain village tucked away in the Central Highlands. It's about an hour and a half from Kandy. And it's the kind of place that most travellers never reach. They wouldn't know about it. We know about it because obviously our hosts tell us about it. And it sits high in the hills. It's surrounded by misty tea plantations, pine forests, and little rural communities where life still moves at its own pace. Honestly, it was just amazing to see people in these tiny villages with their tiny, small little shops, you know, just going about their life. It was great. The scenery was breathtaking, panoramic views, and it was much cooler up there in the hills, a world away from kind of the heat of the lowlands. And I think what makes Gamadua special is that it offers a real sense of Sri Lanka, local families working on the tea estate, school children waving as you go past, just a real warm, genuine welcome wherever you go. Again, really one of, I say one of my favourite places. It was, but I think everywhere was great for me. I couldn't really pinpoint my just most amazing moment because they all were. It's kind of place where you really pause, enjoy a cup of tea on the terrace, take a walk through the plantations, and really soak in the peace and simplicity of rural life. And again, it's away from the buzz of the cultural triangle, just a real contrast. And the accommodation that we stayed in Gamadua, which you'll see in my accommodation video slightly later on in the presentation, was just amazing. The views were just incredible, and the hospitality even more so. So from Gamadua, it was then on to Kandy, where we saw the Temple of the Tooth before boarding the famous blue train bound for tea country. So let me just play you my video first. This is the blue train from Kandy to Ella, and the views from here are just amazing. So often described as one of the most scenic rail journeys in the world, it absolutely is. The route winds its way through lush tea plantations, misty hills, tiny rural villages. Honestly, it's incredible. And you get the classic Sri Lankan images, travellers leaning out of open doors, wind in their hair, cameras at the ready. And that's all true. You can literally hang out the door of these trains. I do recommend check in first whether you're not coming up to a tunnel, obviously. But yeah, it is actually as you see in the pictures. And there's different classes of travel. We were lucky, we travelled in first class, which is the observation carriage, but you can come out of the observation carriage and stand by the door and obviously lean out and take your photos. You've then got second class where the windows are open, so it can be quite hot and warm in there, but you can reserve seats. And then you've got third class, which is where all the locals travel in. It's a great experience, but it is you are literally standing shoulder to shoulder, so you can't really see too much. Whenever we're trying to get tickets for our customers, we do try and get them into first class because it is an air-conditioned carriage. But obviously, if your customers request a different class, we can absolutely do that. Tickets have to be secured early for the train journeys, and there's quite a process now to go through getting those tickets. You have to have your passport at booking stage, have to have the names, but obviously our hosts take care of all of that for you when you're booking one of our itineraries. So we arrived into Nuria Elia from the Blue Train, also known as Little England. It has a lovely colonial charm about it. We actually then, once we arrived into Nuria Elia, we toured a tea plantation with a retired tea planter who shared some really fascinating stories about life on the estates. And then in the evening, the same day, we enjoyed a frog walk, of all things, which was surprisingly magical, a little bit hairy in places, but we got to see some tiny miniature frogs with our naturalist and expert guide. And then from there, we travelled, just excuse me 1 second. Oh, my computer's just having a funny turn. From there, we travelled on to Ella, which is a beautiful area surrounded by waterfalls, lush hills, and of course, the iconic Nine Arch Bridge, which you can see there on the screen. This part of the trip was calm, it was green, it was full of adventure. There's even a zip line nearby if customers fancy an adrenaline rush. So yeah, again, a part of Sri Lanka that you won't want to miss. And then our next and final stop was Galle, and this is on the west coast, the southwest coast. The island's colonial gem, a real place where history, culture and seaside charm kind of all come together. Galle is famous for its fort, and stepping into the fort feels like stepping back in time. The streets are lined with Dutch and Portuguese colonial buildings, boutique hotels, little cafes, art galleries, all enclosed within a 17th century stone ramparts overlooking the Indian Ocean. It was amazing. You can wander along the walls at sunset. You can watch locals playing cricket on the green. You can see the iconic white lighthouse glowing in the evening light. It's a great destination to spend a couple of days simply exploring, shopping and people watching, and obviously enjoying some time on the beach as well if it's the right season. And we did all of that before heading back to the airport after what was the most epic adventure. So Sri Lanka is kind of one of those destinations, as I say, that truly ticks every box: adventure, nature, culture, and it certainly ticked all of ours. What stood out most for me was the variety. In just 2 weeks, we experienced ancient temples, tea-covered hills, incredible wildlife, beaches, and above all, the most genuine hospitality. Every day brought something completely different, yet it all flowed together so effortlessly. And it really is a country that feels safe. It was welcoming, it was easy to travel around. So I would say it's perfect for families like ours, perfect for couples, anyone looking for something a little bit more meaningful than just a beach break. And that's exactly why Sri Lanka fits so perfectly into our portfolio at Not in the Guidebooks. It's full of local life, sustainable stays, and experiences that truly get you under the skin of a destination. Now, I did mention that I'd talk about our accommodation, and this video just showcases some of the places that we stayed. Because, like I said to you at the beginning, we believe that where you stay should be part of the adventure as well. So, boutique hotels, eco lodges, jungle retreats, luxury beach resorts. Clients who love a touch of heritage, there are beautifully converted villas and family homes full of character. And for those that want something truly authentic, our immersive stays with local hosts showcase that famous Sri Lankan warmth and hospitality. And on a personal note, one of my absolute highlights of the accommodation that we stayed, you can see on screen now, was this homestay. And I have to say, I was a little bit apprehensive beforehand. I wasn't quite sure what to expect, but I needn't have been. The family of this homestay was so welcoming. There was only 4 rooms in the homestay, but it had just the most incredible view, a deck that overlooked this waterfall. I have never stayed anywhere with such a view. And I didn't feel like I was thwarted in terms of, having to make conversation with the host. They were very welcoming, but they gave us lots of space as well. And it was one of those moments that really captures what Not in the Guidebooks is all about: authentic, genuine experiences that really stay with you forever. And honestly, I would go back to that homestay in a heartbeat. And it's one of the homestays actually featured in lots of our itineraries on Not in the Guidebooks. So let's take a look at some of our most popular itineraries. We'll start with the Sri Lanka family adventure, which really just is a highlight of what I've just talked to you about, because what I did was the Sri Lanka family adventure. I tweaked it slightly based on the time of year, but we have 2 Sri Lanka family adventures on the website, one for the dry season, one for the wet season. But honestly, I wouldn't worry too much about wet season, because although we went in wet season, we got very little rain at all. So the family adventure, you can see there, the prices there are the lead-in prices. They are with flights there. So that's for the 10th of June next year. Family of 4 from Heathrow, a lead-in price of $299 per person for a 14-night trip. We've then got our Sri Lanka immersive adventure. This is one of our most popular itineraries. This is a 10-night itinerary, and it's the perfect balance of discovery, culture and connection. You're going to be spotting elephants and buffalo on safari. You do the iconic train route, and obviously you get to see the lush tea country and the hills as well. So this is great, and it does include the authentic homestay as well. They're just 2 itineraries, so it's just a snapshot of what we can offer. We've got many others. You can see the 6 there that we actually put together with our local hosts. But remember, we can also tailor your perfect trip as well. So if a customer comes to you and they've put an itinerary together themselves, great, send it to us. Our host can do that for you. And I had a situation very recently where an agent came to me and gave me a trip that they'd actually put together with another operator, and they said, "Oh, we'd love to put it with you, Debbie. Can you get your host to replicate it?" I sent it off to our host, and they did. They absolutely put that one together. But my host came back and said, "Yep, here we go. Here's the trip that you asked for, but I've actually put you together another one because the time of year that they're going, that trip is taking them really to the wrong side of the coast. So I've put you together an itinerary that's taking you to the right side for the weather. So that's what local knowledge does for you. And that's why it's so important to have local hosts on hand that have that knowledge and know the hidden places to go to. So let's just wrap up our journey through Sri Lanka and what a destination it is. We've seen how much variety the small island packs in, from wildlife safaris and ancient temples to tea country and beaches. It's a place where every day feels different. One moment you're watching elephants in the wild, the next minute you're sipping tea in the hills or exploring colourful markets. And what really makes it special is how immersive and easy it is to sell. Whether your clients are families, couples, or adventurous explorers, there's something for everyone, and we have the product range to match. So if you haven't sold Sri Lanka yet, now's the time to start promoting it. Reach out to our team, explore the itineraries on our website, and let's get your clients discovering the real Sri Lanka. Authentic, unforgettable, and full of stories that they'll keep sharing long after they return home, and hopefully stories that they'll share with their friends that will make them refer their customers, their friends, to you as new customers. So if you're now feeling inspired, how about joining us in person, getting a first-hand experience of Sri Lanka? We launched our Ultimate Sri Lanka Fam Trip competition at the beginning of this month. We're doing it in conjunction with ATAS. And you can earn entries by registering, completing training, attending webinars like this one. So if you haven't already, at the end, I'll show you the QR code to make sure that you scan that and get your first entry into the competition. You can earn more entries by making bookings with us and completing trainings. And when I say bookings, it doesn't just have to be Sri Lanka bookings. It could be any bookings with us. So let me just play you the short video about the fam trip.
This is more than a trip. It's your invitation to discover Sri Lanka with us. Sigiriya Rock at sunrise, elephants in the wild, the blue train through emerald hills, and the timeless art of stilt fishing. This is Sri Lanka. And now you can experience it with us. ATAS and Not in the Guidebooks have partnered to bring you the ultimate Sri Lanka fam trip, one that takes you beyond the guidebooks and into the heart of Sri Lanka. Think wildlife without the crowds. Leopards, elephants and monkeys in spaces where the wild still feels truly wild. Stays with the soul, hand-picked retreats full of charm, character, and that warm Sri Lankan welcome. So come along with ATAS and Not in the Guidebooks. Experience Sri Lanka the immersive way and bring home stories your clients will love.
There we go. So, and if that wasn't enough, hopefully you'll all want to be joining that. So you'll be making bookings with us, doing our trainings, and obviously at the end making sure you scan the QR code. But if that wasn't enough, we actually have another incentive away from Sri Lanka. This is part of our end of year campaign. Every booking you make between now and the 31st of December will enter you into a Lapland holiday giveaway. So this is where we are actually giving a holiday for two Lapland available away. So the way you can earn bookings chances to win there is by coming on our Lapland webinar. I believe we've actually got one tomorrow if you want to do that. So email us at agents@. And the other way that you can earn entries is by doing bookings to Lapland between now and the end of the year. And we've still got plenty of availability.
Hands up if you want to win a holiday to Lapland for two. Oh, I don't think I'm allowed. But you can win a holiday to Lapland with us simply by making a booking between now and the end of December. And the great news is we've still got availability for this coming season. Think of magical winter wonderlands, husky sledding, reindeer sleigh rides, and meeting Santa, and maybe even seeing the Northern Lights. It really is the ultimate winter experience. For full details, simply scan the QR code here.
So there we go. So finally, I'm just going to share these QR codes with you because if you haven't joined our groups, you absolutely should. So if you want a steady stream of inspiration to help you bring destinations to life, make it really easy for you to share some of our products and offers to your customers, make sure you're joined our Facebook and WhatsApp groups. This is where we share our updates, new products, offers, and most importantly, it's where you can get ready to use marketing content. Facebook is great for staying in the loop. WhatsApp is ideal if you want easy access to videos because you can download them straight from the WhatsApp chat. But if you're not on the WhatsApp chat, you can just, if you see a video on Facebook that you like, just add a note in comments, put your email address, and we will send it to you. You should already have logins for the website. If you haven't, then just drop us an email to agents@nitgb.com. You can see it on the screen there. Or if you've forgotten your password or you want to reset it, you can just email us. So feel free to scan those QR codes now and start sharing our content. As part of Sri Lanka month for November, we will be sharing lots more info, offers to Sri Lanka. So make sure you're on those groups and share those with your customers. And that's it. I'm now going to open up any questions you might have. You can type these into the chat or you can come off mute and ask aloud. I know there's a lot to take in there, but don't worry, we have recorded this and we'll post the link on our social pages so you can re-watch or share it with colleagues. We will be running another live Sri Lanka webinar session later in the month for those that couldn't make it. So if you've got colleagues that couldn't make it, tell them we are running it again, because I think a live session is good if they then want to ask any questions. And if you've got any further comments or questions, feel free to get in touch. You've got the email address. And just quickly, the QR code is there on screen. If you haven't registered for attending this webinar, make sure you do, because by doing that, you will get your first entry into the Sri Lanka Found Trip competition. So thanks for listening, guys. You can take yourselves off mute now. I'll just leave this on the screen a little bit longer. There we go. And ask any questions. Michelle, I will let you coordinate questions.
Yeah, we have a few questions on chat box. The first one is from Michelle Lacey. Minimum age for children. Is there any minimum age for children to go to Sri Lanka?
There isn't any really minimum age. Ultimately, parents can decide. I mean, some activities might have minimum age if they wanted to zip line, for instance, but there is no real minimum age. That said, they are quite, they're busy itineraries, or if you want to tailor make, we can make it less strenuous, but it's all soft adventure. We personally, I would recommend it for perhaps children 10, 11 or older. I think the pace of the trip lends itself to sort of young teens and then older teens. We get an awful lot of families that are taking older children into their 20s now.
And then from Michelle Clark, do you cater disabled client? And also, did the same guide travel with you throughout the journey?
Yes. Okay. So 2 questions there. So yes, we can absolutely cater for less abled guests. So if you just get in touch with us and let us know what the requirements are, we will absolutely speak to our host and see what is possible. In terms of the guides in Sri Lanka, yes. So like Mano, he picked us up at the airport, he dropped us off at the airport, he was with us for the duration of our trip. He didn't stay in the same hotels as us, but he was there to pick us up in the morning, drop us off in the evening. And if we wanted, for example, when we were at the beach, we didn't actually see him for 3 days. We didn't really need him. If we wanted to go into town, we did it by tuk-tuk. But if we did want him, we could just call him and he'd come and take us out. So it was great.
Okay, from Bibiana, how are the roads in general? Is it tiring? How's the infrastructure?
The roads are, interesting. Should I put it like this? I wouldn't want to drive on their roads, but the driver guides are obviously very experienced and know how to navigate the traffic. It can be hairy at times. The infrastructure is fine in Sri Lanka. It's set up very well for tourists. But yes, would I recommend anybody driving themselves? Absolutely not.
And from Charlotte, how early do the tickets need to be secured?
I assume you're talking for the train. The tickets only go on sale a certain time before. I don't know what it is because we leave that in the capable hands of our hosts. But whenever you book an itinerary with us, I mean, just in the last week, I think we've booked 5 or 6 itineraries for Sri Lanka, and I think most of them included the train. And our host will obviously have that diary at their end to make sure that they're there as soon as they can to purchase the tickets. So I don't know what the time is because we leave that to our hosts, but I don't know whether it's 90 days or 60 days. I'm not sure.
A question from Laura: is it better to book via Incredible Journeys as her partner, or direct to us for best price?
Okay. So as most of you probably know, the prices on our website don't include flights. You can actually now book flights with us because we've got a partnership with Aviate Journeys. So you can, as a one-stop shop, come to us and book the flights. I would say that our prices would work out very, very similar to Incredible Journeys. So if you still wanted to earn your fare banknotes, you can absolutely book through Incredible Journeys or any one of our tour operator partners, whether that's Vista, Co-op Holidays, Major Travel, Travel Pack. All of them can book our product. Obviously, there's a lot of people out there that can dynamically package themselves. That's probably where you can make the most margin if you add your own flights on. But a lot of you don't want to dynamically package, and therefore you've got a choice. You either book with a tour operator or you book directly with us via our new Aviate partnership, and the prices will be very, very similar.
I think that's all. If I miss anything, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask questions.
Anybody wants to ask a question? I can't see many people on camera, so I can just pick on the people that I can see, which is Adam and Rebecca. So if you've got any questions, come on.
Hi, Debbie. Hi, it's Martin here. I put my hand up.
Hello, Martin.
Hi, how you doing? I've got an itinerary I'm putting together at the moment for Sri Lanka for a family of 4. They've got 15 and 17-year-old girls.
Yep.
Now, with regards to the accommodation, they're looking to go sort of end of March, early April. For the accommodation, would you recommend having family rooms, adjoining rooms, interconnecting rooms, or separate rooms as adults and kids?
Yeah, that's a great question. And obviously very similar age to my kids. So mine are 16 and 18. And we actually had a combination of the two. So in some of the locations, we actually had like a family room. I think there was only one location, which was Wilpatu, where we were actually all in the same room. In the other accommodations, we either had separate rooms, but bearing in mind, we were in really quite small accommodations. They weren't miles away from us. And they always made sure that we either had adjoining rooms or rooms that were very close together. And there was another accommodation where we had like a 2-bedroom suite. So as long as you just brief us on what you want, I think parents obviously do want a little bit of segregation sometimes. So we can absolutely just brief the host and do exactly, I guess, kind of what I did and have a combination of the two.
Okay, and just following on from that, they're looking at having a combination of having a tour around Sri Lanka and taking in the game parks and the and all the culture, but they also want to add on a beach stay at the end. Now they were talking in terms of having just sort of 7 days touring and 7 days beach. What would you say would be the right balance?
Personally, I think they're going to struggle to do, depending on if they want safari, if they want to do the tea plantations, if they want to do the train, to do that in 7 days is going to be pretty rushed. Personally, I would say probably 10 and 4 or 9 and 5 would be a good mix. Or if they're able to add, if they can squeeze an extra couple of days in and perhaps do 16 nights, that would be the optimum. But listen, Martin, we can put a couple of itineraries together for you, and then they can decide, what's better for them. Because I guess every family is very different in terms of how much activity they're willing to do. I put my family through through their paces.
Yeah, it looked very similar to the family that I'm booking for. They're very active, so that'd be great.
Excellent. Yeah, so we could follow the same kind of itinerary for you.
Thank you.
No worries. I think Bella's got her hand up.
Hello.
Hello,
I hope
Bella.
it's okay that it's not a Sri Lanka question, but I was wondering if there's any Borneo itineraries on the roadmap for the future.
Now, very good question, because although we haven't got Borneo on the website, we can already do Borneo itineraries. We have got a host in Borneo. So absolutely, Bella, great question. Thank you for that.
Amazing.
I didn't
Thank
pay
you.
Bella to put her hand up and say that for a plug, but I'm glad she did. So yeah, give us a shout. Either jump on online chat or give us a call, Bella, or send us an
Amazing.
email and we can put it together for you.
Thank you so much.
Did anyone else? I thought someone else had their hand up. Not very good technically. Rebecca's got her hand up. Hello, Rebecca. You're on mute, Rebecca. Can't hear you. Talk now. Oh, we can't. Why can we not hear Rebecca? Michelle, can you hear Rebecca?
No, I think she's still on mute.
I think she's typing. I can see her frantically typing, so she's probably typing in chat. Can you see that? Have a look.
On the family itineraries, how have the roomings been costed? Have you taken into account that most family usually want interconnecting rooms, or is it costed on 4 people in one room or 2 separate rooms?
It's generally costed when it's a family of 4. I can see Rebecca's cat in front of her. I have that same problem. It's generally costed that they're all in the same room, or it might be like a 2-bedroom. So it's generally costed that way for the family of 4, Rebecca. Anyone else got any questions? Okay, people are having to dash off now, which is absolutely fine. We've kind of done the hour there. If you do have any questions, absolutely feel free to email agents at. I'm more than happy to answer any questions. I've been there. A couple of our team have been there as well. So we've got the knowledge, and I'm quite happy to talk about it with any of your customers if you need me to. So listen, thanks guys for coming on today. We'll leave it there. We will send an email out probably tomorrow, which will have a copy of the recording if you do want to refer back to it. Otherwise, have a great rest of the week, and hopefully you'll start selling lots of Sri Lanka holidays and get lots of entries into the Sri Lanka fan trip. Take care, everyone.